This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stewart Howden.
Welcome, show number 154. Here we are on a beautiful whatever day it happens to be, whatever day you're listening. But it's a beautiful sunny day today on August the 14th, 2024.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. And consignments are coming in like crazy. And poor Steve, who's, writing all the descriptions, is thinking, can they please just slow down the consignments just a little bit?
It's called job security.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have 940 cars in inventory right now.
Wow.
Would you have guessed that much?
Yeah, 940?
940, yeah. So we're moving on up. We were down to about 910, I think, or something. And at one time we were at 1150, which is too many, and 910 was too little. So I think we're in our sweet spot now. Anyway, we're going to get right to our guest, our very special guest today. Needs no introduction, but we'll give it to him anyway. His name is Luigi Chinetti Jr., and he's calling us from somewhere in the frozen tundra of the north, although it doesn't look very frozen there, Luigi. Good morning. Welcome to the Classic Auto Mall Show.
Good morning.
We understand that there's a special day happening tomorrow for you. Is maybe possibly your birthday tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is 82.
82. I envy people who lived in their 80s, and now they say, oh, now the new normal is 90s. So you've got another good 10 or 15 years at least, and we'll try to play catch up. I just turned 62, and I feel like an old man half the time anyway. So
at 62, you're a youth.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people are familiar with the name Chinetti. Obviously, your father was very instrumental in bringing the Ferrari brand to the United States. And you yourself have been a race car driver, a car designer, and a business person. It's got to be just an incredible life you've lived. And I would imagine that your resume is pretty impressive when it comes to racing. How did you get started in racing? Was your dad started racing and then you kind of followed that, or how did that work?
Fairly simple. The cars that I ran were the leftovers.
Right.
It was very simple. It was easier to go in a big race and cheaper than to go in a little race. It would be the same thing, but this way I tagged along if you want.
Right.
You got leftover cars, but kept the mechanics that were working on the good cars. That's easy.
Sure. So you started out at the famous tracks, Le Mans and Daytona and Watkins Glen and Sebring, right?
That was what we were doing, and that's what I tagged along with.
How did your dad become the importer of Ferraris into the United States? Did he know Mr. Ferrari prior to that, or did they meet through business connections, or were they personally friendly? How did that happen?
Well, I think he knew him from the 20s, but the way it came to the United States is Mr. Ferrari needed American dollars.
Right.
Dad had the customers with American dollars.
Did you realize that the Ferrari was, were Ferraris so mystical back then? It seems today they have a mystique about them, that maybe they were just race cars back in the day. There wasn't anything as special, or was there something always special about them?
Well, it depends always. That is to say, it became special when Dad won Le Mans in 1949.
Right.
Americans didn't really follow the European racing other than maybe Grand Prix.
Right.
Le Mans, well, yes, but after the war, it wasn't really front page news. It was Mr. Griffin at the World Telegram and Sun somewhere in the front pages.
Sure. And was it, to see Ferraris in the United States, so they were difficult to get over here. It wasn't cheap to send a car from Italy to the United States, right? I mean, it was, and it took a while.
Well, the thing is that there was enough margin that you could pay for it very easily, but the prices weren't, it wasn't prohibitive.
Right.
Ridiculous. But then, it wasn't prohibitive.
Are you completely shocked at the prices today of Ferraris? I mean, obviously you are, but I mean, is it just hard to believe some of the values of some of these Ferraris that you had your hands on and drove?
Well, it's not different than from houses or anything else, because some of the houses over $40,000 are over $1 million. So
right.
The cars, a GTO cost us $8,000, and today they're $50 million.
Yeah, seems like a good investment if you were into that kind of thing.
Well, I still have a couple, but the thing is, that was never the idea.
Right. Well, we tell people that today.
I beg your pardon?
We tell people that today, that don't buy cars as an investment, buy them because you love them.
Well, today they've become investments.
Sure. We see Monterey coming up this week out in California, and some of the values that you see on the cars out there. I mean, I think one of the auction houses, 48 of their 180 entries are valued at over $1 million a piece. So that's just hard to believe.
Well, $1 million is sort of the floor.
Right. Exactly. So how did you were telling me, we were talking the other day how NART, or North American Racing Team, came to be. Your mother saw North American van lines?
Well, we were racing under Dad's name or the customer's name before that. But we needed to do a cover, that is to say, an envelope or a form, a more formal arrangement. And we had to think of a name. So my mother saw the back of a North American van truck on the Merritt Parkway, and she said, well, what about North American Racing Team? And that's where it went.
So talking about Le Mans and your dad racing at Le Mans, did he really run 23 hours and 40 minutes of a 24-hour race himself?
He did that. That was his thing. Mr. Ferrari used to call him dromedary. He got in and didn't get out.
Right. Whether they wanted him to or not, right?
Oh, this was his thing. He had no boss. There was no team manager. He ran like he did before the war. He set the cars up, and he did it his way.
Was there a proper pit crew?
One or two.
like yeah, not like today.
Oh, God.
How many guys over the wall at a F1 race? Is there 20, I think, or 25?
No comment.
Yeah, we'll leave that as it is. Your father also participated in the Carrera Panamericana in Mexico was he a riding mechanic? Was what I read. Is that correct?
Riding mechanic isn't really quite accurate. Yes, of course he did the wrenches, but he was also the co-driver, the Tarufi. But then when he went on subsequent to that, he did the Carrera as the driver, and he finished third behind the two factory Mercedes, which is pretty good. And remember, Ferrari didn't have a lot of money to go racing. Mercedes in those times, they had quite a bit of money, and it was important to them.
Sure. Well, all of the big manufacturers were involved in the La Carrera or Carrera Panamericana. I mean, that was like an unsanctioned street race with all the huge money guys showing up, right?
There weren't that many. You had Mercedes, you had Ferrari, but the Ferrari was one of the two cars. So there was only really a Mercedes in those 1 year. And the other years were maybe dominated by Ferrari in 5 years.
Right. And I know that you told me one of the things that your father was most proud of was gaining his American citizenship. What year was that? How long had he been here, and how long did that take? Was that a long?
1942.
Right.
And tomorrow on 82. So that's been a while, but he was very proud of him. I don't remember the exact year, but he was very proud of being an American with an American team.
Sure, absolutely. And we were joking about what he drove to work every day. You said it wasn't what we would expect, right?
Well, he drove my mother's Ford Granada. We didn't need to drive. He would test the car. Yes, he would test them and see what it was like. But as for normal driving, Neither one of us drove a Ferrari ever. Well, once in a while.
Sure.
New York, my test drive in New York for a customer was Central Park. Easy. No problem.
How perfect. So is that where you tested some of the race cars too, or did you go to a proper track?
Oh, God, no, there was no, you'd have to rent the track. So the only problem with driving at Central Park was once I almost ran under the horse of a policeman who didn't own it.
So you had quite the career racing as well too. Some of the cars that you had driven back in the day were quite impressive. I know that we were talking about that you were fifth overall and first in GT class in 1971 in a Ferrari Daytona. Were Daytonas fun to drive?
Well, first they were all the only thing we had.
Right. So they better be fun, right?
They're reliable. Dead reliable. But remember, they were racing drivers. I raced, but they were racers. So there's a big difference because they only did 12 races, and they did it as a living, and they were racers.
Sure. Absolutely. When we return, we'll continue our conversation this morning with our friend, Mr. Luigi Chinetti Jr. We'll be back at the Classic Auto Mall show in just a minute.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Show number 154 with our friend Luigi Chinetti Jr. We're speaking to him about, we've been talking about NART. And is it correct to say NART? Is there a better way to say it, like North American Racing Team, or is NART the accepted way to refer to it?
Well, North American Racing Team describes it better.
Sure.
Whereas if he doesn't know NART, it wouldn't help.
Although the guy who bought the 275 GTB4 NART Spider in 2013 for $27,500,000 probably knew what NART was.
Yes, and he probably knew what was in the bank.
Yeah, yes. People think that sounds like a lot of money, and it is, unless you got, $1 billion in the bank, and then I guess 27 million is not that much, right? Just a little drop in the... So your father was great friends, and you as well, with Zora Arkus Duntov.
Yeah, Dad came to the U.S. and with elbow Lego racing cars. And Zora Duntov drove the single-seaters at Langhorne on the dirt. I mean, yes, they knew each other very, very well.
A Talbot Lago on the dirt. Now, there's a visual.
That's and it's known. There are photographs of it. They knew each other very well.
And he had a great relationship with General Motors in addition to Zora as well, right? Or Mr. Duntov.
Oh, he had a terrific relationship. And by the way, General Motors was a wonderful company to be associated with, as was Ford.
Right.
We happen to be GM people, so from my point of view, they're just a terrific company.
Sure. Well, I think that people don't realize that back in the 40s and 50s, the dominance that General Motors and Ford had, and even Chrysler for that matter, in just business in general, not just in the automotive industry, they were just the titans of business.
Well, indeed, and there was good reason for it, the technology, but also, especially with GM, the design with Harley Earl, they're talking about really wonderful people. Bill Mitchell, those are people that really guided General Motors in the period.
Sure.
Beautiful job.
And tell the listeners what your mother drove back in the day.
The same Ford Granada.
Oh, but didn't she have back in the early times, didn't she have a split window Corvette?
No, that was me that had the split window.
Oh, see, I got my notes wrong. Way to go, Steve. No, sorry. That was I'll blame it all on me. A split window Corvette. Yeah. Yeah, always me. Back in the day, a split window Corvette, when they introduced the 1963 Corvettes to the American public or to the world, people were blown away. It looked like a spaceship to people compared to what they'd seen before.
Well, that was a lovely car, and one of the really wonderful features of it was you could drive cross country and not have a problem thinking of where I'm going to get a service. Because we used to drive from Connecticut to Asheville, North Carolina, 9 hours nonstop. The car was dead reliable all the time. And so that's a big feature when you consider driving anywhere, even today.
Sure, absolutely. And even today, people might be surprised to know that your daily driver is not a Ferrari. It's a Corvette, right?
Well, at 82, I figured I would be driving something that was the last powerful car that was reasonable. And it's a Corvette Z06.
Reasonable and all those things, right?
Well, reasonable in that you can be assured of driving it forever. Now, the Ferrari today is very reliable. There's not a problem with driving a Ferrari or a Porsche.
Sure.
Most of us are not so convinced of, but the Corvette is just dead reliable.
Well, and as you said earlier, you can have it serviced anywhere. And even to this day, I mean, you break down with a Ferrari, it might be a little more difficult to get serviced than a Ford or a Chevy, obviously.
There are far more Chevy dealers than there are Ferrari.
Sure. Well, and driving the new ZR1 Corvette they just announced is coming out. It's going to have 1,000 horsepower and it's $180,000. And people said, "Oh my gosh!" And then you realize that the same horsepower and performance from the new Lamborghini is going to set you back $980,000.
Well, I have 650 or something like that in my car. I don't think I've ever accelerated full out or braked full out. The brakes are far better than you need. And 600 horsepower. I don't think most people would drive those cars and drive a 350.
Yeah, I think that you would be hard-pressed to tell the difference anywhere other than a closed circuit race course or whatever. I know when I get on the on-ramp with my high-performance whatever, I barely am in it, and I'm out of it just as quick. Of course, I'm kind of getting old and timid, so.
Well, the only fun is that it's silver, and I'm silver hair. And young guys with their go-faster trucks and something, they look at me and they say, "Oh, we're going to blow that guy off." And it's never happened. And so,
well, that's good. I'm glad you're keeping your racing chops up.
Well, it's fun. It's a pleasure.
It's fun to drive something fun. I mean, that sounds about as simplistic as it gets, but it's true. It's fun to drive something fun.
Well, not only that, but with that particular car, whether it's in Canada or the U.S., if I'm parked in front of a stopping, the AMP or whatever it is, and I'm there, that car attracts old women, young women.
Sure.
And they're all, by the time she comes out, I'm friends with everybody.
At the AMP. Do they still have AMPs in Canada?
Pacific, no, that's gone.
Long gone. So you were last year the Grand Marshal of one of my favorite events, the Chattanooga Motorcar Festival, and are this year the Grand Marshal Emeriti. What a great event that's become.
That has become it's a super event. The people are nice, the event is nice, and it's a pleasure to be there.
Sure. And you were also involved with the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix as well, too, aren't you?
That also is very nice because it's sort of reminiscent of what happened in the 50s. The people are superb. They're wonderful people. And like I say, the little racing among the stone walls is sort of reminiscent of what could happen if walking burn or whatever. It's definitely a throwback to the 50s, and it's wonderful.
Sure, and I'll tell you the interesting thing about, for example, Chattanooga and Pittsburgh this year is they both featured Corky Coker's Ragtime Racers, which if you haven't seen Corky Coker and his Ragtime Racers with those guys racing the Mercers and the Stutzes and all that, it's a spectacle to watch. It
is, and like my wife was enthralled with those cars, and to see these fellas leaning over and, trying to muscle it in. It gives an idea of how quick those cars really were. And that's on asphalt.
Yeah.
So imagine them on little tiny roads that are dirt or whatever. These guys were really, really good.
And when you used to go back in the day, and Mr. Ferrari was still alive, I mean, you got to see Mr. Ferrari at the Ferrari factory and go to lunch with him, and he drove, and that seems like just pinch of stuff. God.
Well, it didn't seem that way at the time. It seemed relatively course of business, if you want. And I liked him a great deal. I thought he was terrific. And the times that I did drive with him, he was just smooth as silk. He was just a wonderful driver. And it was him that was not banging on your chest. He was just a very, very straightforward person. Dad would call him commendatore, and he would call Dad Chinetti. There was a formality.
Sure.
There was none of this Enzo and Luigi thing. It was just a very nice, if you want, formal but very friendly.
And respectful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They both had a lot of respect for each other.
Sure. And it was merited because, you know, from my point of view, Dad went all over the world, and poor Mr. Ferrari somewhat stuck in Modena, making 150 Modenese come to work every day. And that wasn't so easy.
Sure. Yeah, your dad had the better gig, it sounds like.
I think he had the better deal.
I think so as well, too. Yeah, I can only imagine. And I imagine when you went to lunch with Mr. Ferrari, there was probably, you know, some McDonald's and a Sprite, right? You didn't, no fancy wine or.
Well, no. Well, the thing is, everything was local. I mean, everything was made probably the same day. The wine was all local, and it was just nowadays it's very, if you want, upscale, and not then. It was just informal.
Right. You could drink wine out of a paper cup, right? I mean, that wouldn't have been unusual.
Well, let's not get carried away. In those days, you know?
Sure. And did you tell me that there's a book coming out or in the works based on your dad and the North American racing team?
Indeed. Right now it's being co-written with me and Doug Nye, who's just a superb writer.
Right.
And Philip Porter is the publisher. And the good thing is we're all early 80s, and the problem is we're in the early 80s. But the part is we remember everything from our experience. And that, it would be hard to do that with a young person. You'd have to sort of educate them on the past, and that's not so easy.
Sure. When we return, we will continue our conversation with Mr. Luigi Chinetti Jr. here on the Classic Auto Mall Show. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Show number 154. You okay over there, Steve?
Yep.
I'm glad to know. I wanted to lose you over here. We're talking with our friend Luigi Chinetti Jr., and we were just talking about the amazing people that come through all of our lives over the years. And one of them is the reason that you and I are talking, and that's Judy Stropus. I mean, what a treasure she is to the hobby, to just a great person, a great friend of the hobby, a great, knows everybody. The one degree of separation is her.
Well, very few people give her the credit she deserves for being the timekeeper for Penske.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows her for what she does today, but what she did years ago was extraordinary. That was, for me, that was just extraordinary.
An amazing life that she's lived, and of course continues to this day, and does all kinds of great things, and just so proud to know her and call her a friend. It's a great thing. So you've met quite a few interesting people. Miles Davis comes to mind. He was a customer back in the day, right?
favorite was Justice. He was terrific. He loved my old man, and I liked him a great deal. And the one episode that I recall quite clearly is I was leaning against the black Ferrari Lusso in '63, and he walked in, and I started the conversation, and I said, friends with the black Lusso, I said, what do you think of that? And he said, well, he said, when it's there, it's fine, but then coming to the chin, he said, but when it's here, it's
Oh, wow. That struck it. Yeah, I get it. What did he end up buying a few cars from you guys over the years?
Yes, he did. He was just a wonderful fellow. And a genius.
Oh, yeah, a musical genius, absolutely. So, class winner twice at Daytona. Would you win in 71 in a 312P and 73 in a Daytona? Is that right?
Well, 71 in the 3-liter, yes, that I remember quite clearly. However, the second one,
well, sure. And you also ran at Bonneville with Graham Hill and Paul Newman.
That was terrific. It was well, the thing is, Dad had world records in Paris in the 30s, and I said, well, why don't I just try and do the same thing? Because all I did is take a page out of his notebook, and I said, well, let's go to Bonneville. So the thing to do was I went to Paul Newman's house, knocked on the door, and said, would he like me to the door? And he said, would I like to go to Bonneville? And she said, no. So then that was sort of thoughtful there. And he asked Graham Hill, and he said, yes, I want $1,000 and a first class run and trip airfare from London to the States. And then we had Milt Minster, who drove for us a number of times, and then me, and you didn't have to ask me. That was easy. The only problem was we promised everybody that they were sponsored, but we promised them if we didn't break the record, that was a good one. But we did his records, and we didn't have to send them money down.
Well, Luigi, we certainly appreciate you being on the show with us this morning, and hope to see you at some of the events coming up in Chattanooga and others as we travel in the future. And thanks again.
Buying and selling via consignment is safe, easy, and secure. We advertise, sell, and ship worldwide. And if you'd like to know all the advantages of selling your car through consignment, the information's available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. Plus, you can easily search our inventory online at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Great guest, Luigi Chinetti Jr. on the show today, and we will revisit with him again with a little better audio as well too. That's always tricky, and you just never know this modern technology. It's fantastic until it ain't.
That's right.
When it ain't, it ain't.
Can't count on it.
You can't count on it.
Nope.
And it doesn't. And you don't even know where to begin. You know, you can check your cables in your studio, and you can check this and listen. That's bitching. but the truth is there's stuff that's beyond our control out there. The network and the World Wide Web and all the stuff that goes on. And who knows?
Listen, look at where stuff has come in, let's say, 20 years. Where will it be in 20 years from now? This is still just like when we were using the crank-up telephones back in 100 years ago, as far as internet and communication is going.
Special thanks to the Pat Travers Band. And if you catch us at any of the shows that we're at, we're going to be at a bunch of shows coming up here the next couple of months. We got Radnor Hunt Concours d'Elegance, which is excited to be a part of and be on the board of that this year. And St. Michael's Concours we're going to be involved with, which is over in Maryland. And just Audrain we're doing up in Rhode Island. So we're spreading our tentacles.
Have you ever stayed at the Inn at Perry Cabin in St. Michael's?
I've not. I've been there, but I haven't stayed there.
You need to stay there.
I might stay there. So and staying in Newport is not too shabby either.
Right.
Yeah, the Viking, which is a really cool hotel, and dealio up there. So catch us on all the podcast sites. You can Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Buzzsprout. And YouTube is where we're really gaining the most traction with this. It's really done well for us. So catch us on those. Oh, you know what? I forgot. Almost forgot. Where did we sell cars this week?
Sell cars to this week.
Why, how about Springfield, Pennsylvania, Wichita, Kansas, Denver, Pennsylvania, Kerrville, Texas, Sodus, New York, Harrisonburg, Virginia, Littleton, Massachusetts, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Ontario, Canada, Magnolia, Delaware, Stafford, Virginia, Sarasota, Florida, Pebble Beach, California, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and St. David's, Pennsylvania.
And when you say Springfield, you have to say it like Homer Simpson. Springfield.
Oh, Springfield.
Oh, Springfield. Oh, Mike, you make the best pork chops.
There are 3 Springfields in this general area, actually.
Yeah, there's a Springfield.
Montgomery, Bucks, and Delaware County. Each have a
Springfield, Missouri.
Everywhere.
940 cars in inventory, vehicles in inventory, I'll say, not cars.
Yes, that's right.
And what are some of the new ones that came in?
I ask.
Tell us.
I really didn't hear you.
Please.
How about the 78 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am? Mayan red over black, which is usually Buccaneer red. Is the
is that right?
I don't know. I mean, that's a red that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I never heard of this one either.
I've never heard of Mayan red. WC stamp 400 cubic inch L72 V8. Numbers matching Borg Warner T10 manual transmission. Obviously, the iconic decals on the said Trans Am. Shaker hood equipped.
Yes, of course.
All Trans Ams had.
Absolutely. Iconic.
The formulas could have the same body package, except the hood would be different. It had the twin snorkel.
Twin snorkel.
Hood scoop.
That's right.
This one didn't. So this one's a very solid car.
And much less insurance, apparently, back in the day. Formulas were much less expensive.
Isn't that crazy?
Insure.
And you get the same motor and same engine and all that stuff. How about the 1917 Buick D35 touring car? Pale yellow over black. Mostly original example. 170 cubic inch inline 4-cylinder. 3-speed manual with a newer clutch. You can drive this, you can restore it, you can do whatever you want. That's the beauty of a car like this. It runs and drives, and that's great. As we always say, if you buy a car that needs restoration, the running and driving part is the most important part. And then decide what level you want to go to. Do you want to completely restore it? Do you want to sympathetically restore it, which means that you fix the things that are kind of obvious and don't go deep into, frame and chassis and all that stuff. So how about the 68 Ford Mustang California Special Hardtop? Candy apple red over black. Includes the Marty Report. It's got the 289 cubic inch V8, the Tremec T5 manual, so had a little liberty taken with it.
Yeah, but it's still a real deal California special.
Ford 9-inch rear, 4-link and coilover rear suspension, true California special. And this was a thing that Ford did back in the day in 68, obviously, February, built a limited edition, the CS, the GT/CS, which stood for California Special. They were just trying to spark the pony car, keep that going. And, they realized that it was cool and it was great. I think they built 4,118 of them. And I think it worked, I guess. It looked sort of Shelby-ish with the wheels that they had. And so, one of those things that you never know till you try. And they also did the High Country edition, which we just sold.
That's right.
Which was only sold to dealers in Denver, Colorado. Did they do the hillbilly version in East Tennessee? I don't recall that.
No, and Don has an interesting special edition version. I forget what it's called.
Right.
But so they made these special editions to try to spark interest in sales.
Think how many different Mustang iterations there's been over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Between the Shelbys, the GT500, the GT350, the KRs, all the different versions, and then the new resurrected Shelby stuff in the 2000s and 2000. I still love that 2000. Is it 2008 that they did the GT500 KR for the first time? They brought it back, and it had the same motor as the GT40 or the GT at the time, and that thing was
it's a rocket,
540 horsepower.
You see them at car shows quite often,
and usually in red or maybe always in red.
No, they were different colors, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, I always seem to see them in red, which is really a great color for
podcast
those.
at classicautomall.com if you know the answer, because I'm not sure.
How about the other new arrival, the 32 Ford Highboy Roadster? By the way, that was me just taking a deep breath. How about the 32 Ford Highboy Roadster, yellow over black, TCI frame, Harwood body, and And this ain't your run-of-the-mill 350 Chevy deal.
Right.
This is a 383 stroker with 500 horsepower, Power Glide automatic, Ford 9-inch rear. Oh, my God. This thing, so you look at high boys, you think, well, what's a high boy? Well, it's something that sits on top of the frame instead of channeling into the frame to give it that low boy. It's not low boy.
No.
It's just, I don't know what it is exactly.
What the name is of the opposite.
I don't either. It's
high
the
boy?
opposite of high boy.
High boy's low boy.
It's a low boy. And because channeling was not easy to do. You had to cut out, the body and make it fit down over the frame so it gave it that low, sleek look, which I preferred over the high boys, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But they became very sleek.
Have you ever driven one of these? I've never driven one, and with that much horsepower, I can't imagine, because they're pretty light cars.
Oh yeah, they're fiberglass.
Fiberglass.
I mean, some of them are steel, but this one happens to be fiberglass, as most of them are fiberglass. Also, new arrival, the '72 Chevrolet Suburban, medium olive green and white over white and olive green. Rebuilt 350 Holly Terminator fuel injection. I love those. I think those are so cool. Low mile automatic. It's a classic family hauler. It's a family truckster.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
And
it's not perfect.
No, it's not perfect. It's it's got some issues, but it's you just don't see them anymore.
And when we say issues, this one has just some visual stuff. It's got some little spots here and there, and a rub and a nick and a. It's been used.
Yeah.
It's been used as to what it hauling the family up to the mountains or to the shore or to wherever you go with the family.
That's right.
And really a neat unit and. Talk about popular. People see that thing and you watch them gravitate right towards it. So, and last but not least, the 1983 Honda Civic 1300 hatchback, Oslo ivory over tan. Well, there's an exciting color. 14,000 original miles.
Wow. Somebody put one of these away. That's amazing.
Garage kept. Absolutely. 1.3 liter single overhead cam inline four with a 4-speed manual. Very original example. And this thing, I mean, think about it. They're still making Civics today.
Right.
I mean,
got to be one of the longer lasting.
Yeah.
And as you said in the description, it was the it car back in the day. I mean, it was the it car, not because it was the fastest or the sexiest. It was the it car because it was just the best damn car made. I mean, I'm sorry. It was reliable. It was economical. It didn't look bad. It wasn't garish to look at. It looked cool. It was different. What we saw back in the day. And in 1983, I think they sold 137,000. And 1 million of them had been sold already in previous years. I mean, you remember when the first Civic came out? It was tiny. And this was close. What year would a first Civic been? 81?
Yeah, earlier. Yeah. A couple of years earlier, 80.
I remember I had a 77 Honda motorcycle, and I heard Honda cars were coming out, and my bike was so good, I remember remarking to somebody, if their cars are as good as their motorcycles, it's going to be a heck of a car.
Apparently Honda generators are some of the best on the market.
They're great.
Right? Yeah.
They're fantastic. And riding, they used to make mowers and all that stuff. They don't really make all those anymore. They make a jet now.
Oh, they do?
A Honda jet.
It's got to be good. It's got to be good.
Yeah, it has to be good. It's
reliable. That's what you want.
It's an excellent jet. Yeah, and you want reliability when you're 35,000 feet above sea level. And Honda's an amazing company. And then they brought out Acura. Those things were spectacular. I mean, they were well built, cool looking. They were driver's cars. And of course, the NSX came out in 91, and that thing just changed everything.
It sure did.
It was a reliable, economical, fun. How do you say all those things in the same? Lightweight.
Wasn't the fastest car.
Wasn't the fastest car, but it was supercar performance of it only 270 horsepower maybe.
But a sports car.
But a real sports car. And a 9,000 RPM redline, which no cars had back in the day. I mean, Formula One cars did, but no street-going cars had that kind of redline. And if you ever driven one, it's hard. 9,000 RPM, it's hard not to take your foot out of it too early. You think, oh my God, I'm going to blow this thing up. And you're not.
Have we ever represented one here at the mall?
We have not.
I don't think we have.
I don't think we have. If you know that we're wrong, podcast at Classic Auto.
Or if you have one, you'd like to consign,
then hey, we got the space.
I see you in blue, but there's a guy parks outside. I put a note on the car. I'm like, what are you going to do with this car? You put
a little note on his window that says "Call Steve if you ever need."
It's out in the rain. Come on, man.
And speaking of, I'm sorry. And speaking of podcast.com, that's where you can send names for Stewart's boat, which I've seen in the back now. It's here.
It's here.
It's impressive.
So I got 2 rush hour traffic drives yesterday, one through DC and one through Baltimore, and that's about as pleasant as getting a colonoscopy or whatever. It's just miserable.
And equally as sleepy.
And the road is so uneven, and you're thinking, if that boat goes flying off that trailer, that's going to be a call to Kathy that I'm not going to want to make.
Yeah.
Hi, honey, your boat's in the middle of I-95, and I'm done.
Yeah,
it was. So I unfortunately, there was a little relay problem with the power or something. They had to replace it, and they didn't have it. So I went to lunch, came back. Now I'm like an hour and a half behind, which I had all planned out of exactly getting there at the right time and leaving at the right time and missing the rush hour traffic. Which all that went to hell in a handbag. And I got home at 8:30 last night.
Oof.
And
did you bring the pickup truck to tow it?
I brought the dually.
The dually.
The
That's
dually,
right. I forgot we have one. Yeah, I forget you have access to that.
Well, it's because it's mine. Yes, I have access. So the dually was great. It pulled that boat. A boat's, I mean, it's a 25-foot boat, but it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you don't realize how big, especially out of the water.
Yeah, you stand next to it. It's large.
Yeah, it's a big old boat, but it's red, white, and blue, baby. Yeah. It's all American.
So we're doing a contest for those of you just learning about this, that we're trying to name the boat. You need to let us know by the 25th of August so that we can announce it on the following show for
doesn't mean we're going to use
Labor
it.
No.
You just might win the best name.
Podcast at ClassicAutomall.com. The guys at the boat dealership's favorite was Pond Pontiac.
Yeah.
They liked that one a lot.
And you could win a hat. You know.
Yeah. Cirrhosis of the River is really good. That's really a good one. And Usain Bolt, because that would be one that not many people might not get, but if you did get it, you'd get it.
You'd get it.
So
it's in 10 years that's going to be really obsolete.
Exactly. It'll have to be the other guy. So
the other guy.
I happened to see a C6 Corvette today, and I thought of something. They had a sequential tail light, a turn signal on it. And the first time I saw one was on a Thunderbird.
That's right. And
I loved it. I thought it was cool. This Corvette, the turn signal is only about 4 inches wide. It's like, it doesn't cut it.
It doesn't carry your watching it go across because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It doesn't go very far.
It's standard on a lot of Audis, but I think Corvette's like an aftermarket. It might be an aftermarket
thing. Really?
Yeah, I think so.
You have to check that box.
Yeah, probably.
If you order it.
Yeah, that's right.
Buy it at Auto Value.
I was just going to see how long I could just stare at Steve before he thinks. We're not saying anything.
Well, you want me to tell you the Trans Am story?
Yes, I do.
LostMusclecars.com.
Yeah, Lost Muscle Cars.
Facebook page.
Which you've got me the book.
Right.
And I appreciate it. And have I read it? But when I got the boat now, when I'm out there floating around
you'll be reading
not a damn thing to do in the middle of a pond,
but
my Pond Pontiac.
Just sweat.
And
drink.
You can't drink out there.
No.
There's no drink.
Yeah, he's written 2 books. One's called Lost Muscle Cars. The other one's called One of One Muscle Cars. So that's the book. That's the book. Yeah, the rarest of the rare. And this guy just tracks stuff down. He helps people find their old cars. And I happen to have kept everything from the glove compartment when I sold my car for $1,600, by the way, my Trans Am.
That's why you kept all the stuff. If you got $2,500, you wouldn't have kept it.
I kept all the stuff because it was my first car. Everything happened in that car.
Well,
everything happened in that car.
That's a broad stroke, isn't it?
All kinds of stories. But then I never really looked for it in earnest. I don't know why I didn't look at it. I knew we sold it somewhere in Las Vegas. And so I put a post a couple weeks ago on Lost Muscle Cars, the Facebook page, and had a picture of a registration card or insurance card, and somebody was able to track down, had some kind of back records, DMV records, was able to find out that it was in a certain part of Utah. And long story short is I found the car. The father and son had completely restored it in the last 5 or 6 years. It's back to better than new,
right?
Because I ruined it as a
different color.
No, it's the same. It's back to stock color.
You had repainted it.
I did. Yeah. Yes, I got an fender bender in L.A.
Right.
And a shop convinced me to paint the whole thing white.
Right.
Take the eagle off, take the decals off, and paint it white. And I had Krieger SSTs on it. I sold the snowflakes for about $15 each. Live and learn.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been completely restored. It's beautiful. It's more than I can afford.
And they're driving you crazy, want you to buy it, I bet.
No. After I said I can't afford it, I haven't heard from them. But
crickets.
Yeah.
And you had to go through, like, their, to be vetted, that you can't just connect to the person.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly right. It's done through Lost Muscle Cars. And there's a certain etiquette you have to follow. And once this Wes guy who runs the thing connects you to, you can talk all you want.
And it's the same with us. We get people who ask all the time, can we speak to the owner? Well, if he's okay with it, you can, but we can't just willy-nilly give everybody's name out. You know? Or people will call up and say, oh, let's see, you sold that. Can you give me the name of the buyer? No, we can't.
Right.
And it's not because we don't want to. We're not trying to be just jerks about it. It's that it's a privacy thing.
Sure.
And I'm sorry. And if you don't agree with that, I didn't create the law.
That's right, exactly.
Change whatever happens north of here or south of here, wherever the hell I was.
South
South of here. Nothing happens north of here.
South. Right? So people post every day on that Facebook page.
And do people have the same success that you have?
No, it's probably 1 out of 30 are able to find their car.
Right. Which is pretty good.
And if you have the VIN, it certainly helps.
Exactly.
Even if it's a pre-81 VIN.
I don't have any of my VINs.
See, I don't get that. I guess I was the only one who, like, if you kept your old paperwork.
But you're supposed to go with the car, but...
No, I don't know. No, it's like old insurance and old registrations.
Oh, I got you. Well, that's fine to keep.
Right.
Yeah, not the window sticker or the bill sheet.
Nothing current. No, nothing current. And I don't have any of the really good original stuff like the bill sheet and anything like that. But anyway, if you have the VIN, it's certainly helpful. Post on the Facebook page, Lost Muscle Cars, if you're looking for your car. I'm sure some have come through this place and if we missed it,
Yeah, sure. And listen, if there's something that we can help with research, we're glad to reach out to a buyer or a seller and say, would you be okay with somebody contacting you? But we just can't just give it out.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, and listen, in fairness to everybody, some people don't want to be known.
That's true.
They just don't want people to know that they own this or that because of whatever reasons.
That's it. Privacy.
I do have a question for you, too. This came up in our production meeting yesterday. I was behind a car with a historic tag, and maybe you need to do more research, but knowing you probably know the answer. I know it varies by state, but what are the advantages of a historic tag versus just a regular license plate?
One-time registration, one-time plate fee. Once you pay for it and get it, it's yours for life.
At least as far as Pennsylvania goes.
Yeah,
your state may vary.
Yeah.
And one inspection or no inspection?
I think no inspection.
Yeah, no inspection now.
And then there's also an antique plate. So there's a special
classic car,
and then there's an antique plate, and they both have to be over 25 years old. I know that. I think the special interest is 25, and the antique is now 30 or something.
Yeah, I think so.
And but there's some benefits in not having to get it inspected multiple times and all of that. So and a lot of people, and you can transfer a classic plate to another buyer. You can just sign a little form that we have here, like we'll sell a car, and the guy will say, can I keep the plate? All the seller says, yeah, I'm done. I'm not buying anything else.
In the same state.
In the same state, again. What happens in Texas or Tennessee or any of the others, I don't know. So
very cool.
So
it saves a lot of money in the long run because
it does.
You don't have to register it every year. And
or
inspections could be. If I had to inspect my LaForza, it'd be bad news.
I just inspected all our cars. I can't tell you how much I just spent.
Yeah, it's like $55 in Pennsylvania.
Oh, plus there's always something wrong. Yeah, they're always going to find something, and you can't say, I'll go to another guy. No, it goes into the system.
Yeah.
And now you are branded.
The good thing is that the VINs always have to track.
Right.
So for future, if you have a car that may have some value in the future, the VIN numbers always have to be progressive.
And luckily, they're continuing that as they're really, really doing a better job of keeping a national database of cars, and that's important unless you get a 4-digit Packard that has the same as a Poughkeepsie, Kubota, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah, when I said $55, I meant the registration. I just renewed the registration. That went up. It used to be $36 for years, and that's gone up in Pennsylvania. And it's
oh, sure.
Damn inflation.
But they don't have inspection in California, but registration's outrageous. It's based on the value of your car. It could be $300, $400, $500, $600.
Yeah, some states have that too.
And in South Carolina, you can register your car, and it's like $300, no matter how much the price of the car.
Oh, really?
So that's why you see a lot of South Carolinians or South Carolina plates with people registering, especially their exotic cars and high dollar cars and things like that. So that'll do it.
Yep.
We'll catch you next week on the Classic Auto Mall Show. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Classic Auto Mall Show with your host, Stewart Howden, executive producer, Steve Safier, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ. Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.